Okay, here we are, friends. Welcome, Warrior Sages. I have a wonderful friend here that was introduced by another wonderful friend.
Hmm.
And I've been following your writings, David, online, and I was very moved by the sensitivity, the depth, the care that you have.
Thank
David
you.
is a really amazing background as a lawyer, as a therapist, really as a servant of humanity. He helps people who are in places
Nice.
of, a servant of humanity. And, in my, um, we hit it off right off the bat. And, we have this depth of immediate love that I felt for you and
Mm.
fellowship.
Mm. Thank you.
And I really want to acknowledge the embodied wisdom and genuine care and artistry you have in supporting those who you serve. And I'd love you to share about that as we open up. So welcome to this Warrior Sage
Hmm.
circle. And the folks who come here are the ones who are interested in having a more potent impact as leaders in consciousness, in life, in their families.
Important. Important.
So
Mm.
welcome, David. And I'm glad you're here, brother.
Thank you. I'm honored, seriously, to be welcomed into your space and the space of the community that you're a part of and help build. And I love that you use the word humanity. That's that's a really important word to me. It gives me chills when I say it. Mhm. Yeah, it's about humanity. I love that. Some people say, "Do you like everybody?" I say, "I love humanity. I don't necessarily like everybody." Yeah. Individuals, individuals, a different story. I have relationships, right? But humanity is a different thing. It's a whole a quality of wholeness. Yeah. Mhm. Thanks.
Brother David, share with us, um, a little bit about your journey and how you serve in the world now.
Well, it's a great question. I'm letting myself think or dream, I call it. Some people call it, some people call it vision or dream. To me is a very important word because of nighttime dreams, but it's also a quality of dreaming. That means getting in touch with something that's not only what I've been thinking of saying and doing. People call that other things. That's fine. I don't have a need to, but for me, it's dreaming because I love dreams and it's part of my connection to source, to and deep intelligence. So I guess that's part of it. I grew up in New York as a uh, Jewish boy in a Jewish home, and I don't only say that because of the religious aspect. That's not unimportant, but I say that because of the context of growing up. I'm 65. The context of my family, a kind of growing up in Holocaust time in the anti-Semitic field, um, what that meant for the kind of teaching and or violence and or denial of that violence. That's not specific enough. Some Jewish families responded post-Holocaust by wanting to educate their children as much as possible about the issues that go on. And some families coped, for better and worse, with those histories by saying, let's forget it. We're here. We're in the United States. The last thing I want to do is introduce my children to such a violence. It wasn't ill-intended, but it leaves a gaping hole where things fill it in that are not so easy. Um, anyway, I wasn't thinking I was going to say that, but somehow I'm wanting to say that. So I grew up, so I had violence in my home, physical violence and otherwise, people would call abuse, that would be a proper word, but connected to that history. It's important that it's connected to that history uh, for me. But that led me to a whole bunch of different things. Being interested in otherness and other people, and growing up in New York City meant I was exposed to so many different kinds of people. And my heart got moved by the diversity of New York City and fell in love with that. So I think that with my history and a Jewish history, which says, for me, I understand something of what it's like to be marginalized, hated, hurt in
Mm,
different ways. it led me into a path that looked at social justice and caring about me, caring about other socially, and then later psychologically. I became much more interested in the inner workings of that. What's it like inside of you around those marginalizations and those diversity issues? So that led me into not just studying law and social justice, but studying a branch of Jungian psychology, look at the intrapsychic dimensions of what people go through. What do we own? What do we throw away? What happens when we throw it away?
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
What have you seen in your experience working on the social dimension as well as the inner terrain in being as the most, if you will, contracting aspects that are holding us back or that are contributing to, greater suffering? What is it within us?
It's such a huge question, Satyen. It's such a huge question. I first have to say, I hope everybody has answers that they follow and make medicine out of, because we need lots of answers. You know what I mean? I'm always glad when people say, I have a different answer. And I say, follow that, take that to its painting, to its voice, to its White House steps, to its garden, wherever it goes. Take that. For me, the idea of shame is a central variable. And again, that doesn't mean that's the truth. It's just where my eyes focused, and then I learn something about that so I can offer education about it. But there are other areas. Shame means that if we think about it as an outer world scene, let's say, I got a pen in my hand. Let's say this piece of cloth is a person or a group of people, right? A queer person, a native person. And let's say this is an insult or assault to it. I don't like you, get out of here. I'm going to take away your rights. I'm going to treat you less than a part of humanity. I call that an assault, but I don't call that shame. Shame, I say, is when the culture or a person looks at that assault and says, that's not happening. That's not a big deal. That's happening because of the way you are. One of those three things. Then not only does this person get hurt, I hit that person, they get injured or maimed, right? They can get hurt. Psychologically, physically, they can get hurt. But then when this consciousness is around that says, that's not happening, that's not a big deal. Why are you making a big deal of that? I didn't see anything. You must have deserved that. When that consciousness goes into the individual or to the group, the person then devalues, annihilates their own humanity. So now being hurt is not important. Being protected is not important. Being precious, spiritually, a child of the divine is not important anymore because of that consciousness. And that consciousness, for me, is a potent toxin, if I could call it, a potent disease.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Does that make sense? Am I?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I experience what you're saying is it's like a disease that rots the soul. It allows us to veer off what we know is good, right, which I feel is a natural. But if it wasn't formed early on or beaten up and bruised or not fed the right soul nutrients,
Yeah.
then of course. Now, have you ever met anyone who has been free of, like, who's grown up with, they didn't have any type of dents and bangs and bruises?
I suspected it about one or two people, but no, and not to my knowledge. And I don't have a worldview where that's gone. I mean, I have a hope for the world that it would be gone, as a hope to unfold, to develop over decades or centuries or whatever. But I don't have a worldview that says, how do you make that all go away? Not that we shouldn't relieve it as best we can and bring healing to it, but the idea that people can be free of those things totally, for me. Now, some people say, I did something that made me free. I say, amen, follow your path, right? Unless you want to use what you've learned to hurt other people, then I'm going to challenge you. But if you're not bypassing, I'm going to call it, in a way that harms other people, then you have a genuine path. I think great. But for me, I'm interested Satyen, in the muck, in the mud, in the humanity, in the humus of the world, in the places. I've been teaching for over 30 years, and I still get insecure every time I teach. My bowels still do strange things. My stomach still does flip-flops. You know,
Ah,
I'm still insecure in ways just the way I was when I was 5. Have I overcome that? No. Is it relativized? Is it not all of me? Can I laugh about it, hug myself, tell you about it without being in a contracted agony? Yes. But is it true? Yeah, I mean, this is part of my humanity.
yes.
Maybe you have something and you have yours, and then we can make humanity out of it as opposed to illness out of. Does that
Yeah,
make that resonate for you?
absolutely. Absolutely. It's those parts that need our deepest tenderness, our most delicate of touch, and our most gentle awareness in entry and embrace.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, I mean, if we're treating the most
Yeah.
tender parts of us in a cruel way ourselves, or we're distancing, is what I have found, then what happens is there's another part of our psyche that builds this fakeness, that builds this facade of some type of character that we see, this character. In
Yeah.
the in the extreme versions we see is the characters we see in our leadership positions, where
Yeah.
almost like, where is the soul of these beings? Where is the soul?
I love that way of saying it. Where is the psyche, means soul? Where's the soul? Not a psychology that works with the soul, the psyche, by making it go away, but helps reveal it. It's a big thing for leadership. I don't know if I've ever talked about this directly, Satyen, but you brought up the issue of leadership. I have a bias, which doesn't mean it's right. It's just where I lean that we're kind of talking about. And that I would love to see leadership that looks more like pieces of humanity. Here I am. Here's where I'm brilliant, and I'm not shy to say it. Here's where I'm half put together, and I'm a mess. And without Satyen, I'm falling apart. The whole catastrophe, Zorba said. I think leaders that can bring themselves like that, because otherwise we have a model, which is kind of a patriarchal model. Hi, I'm a leader. How are you? Yes, I know the answer. I'm fine. I don't have any problems. I don't get insecure. I don't get diarrhea before my classes. Whatever the thing is, I don't have problems. I don't get into conflicts and not know what to do about it. I don't hurt anybody else by the misuse of my power. It's like, I think that perpetuates if leaders keep having to look like they're in this together, I've got it all figured out way. I think it perpetuates a shame that happens to people. And we shouldn't be shy about our genius, our brilliance. Also, it shouldn't mean, it's not a putting down this, okay, I'm really not very good. I don't really know anything about what I've studied. I'm not talking about that. That's an egoic state just as much as the inflation is. But there are things that we know, that we've learned or experienced, or our heart knows when we came into this life, however you look at that, those should shine also. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Brother, these are very potent times in the inner world, the outer world, all the conditions. We can riff off how many fronts there are to deal with, which are bringing us to the brink of existence, our own humanities.
Yeah.
Please, I'd love you to share how you've been experiencing that, and perhaps some wisdom on how, from your view, how we can, face and deal with and be present to the richness and the intensity of existence.
Just a small question. I love I'm laughing of this part of me that gets such a joy out of hearing such a profound question, because people don't engage me like that all that often. Sometimes, but the way you express them, a part of me laughs and sings, and then the laughter of like, sure, let's resolve that one, like, but they're worthy. It's a worthy discourse. Your question makes me think about the recent United States election, and I'm a progressive, That's my leaning. Uh, I'm not a pro Donald Trump person. That's not, I'm not bringing that up to debate that. That's fine. If people want it to be different, that's also fine. But a part of me had a hope that he wouldn't get reelected. And the hope was so strong that I found myself anxious and feeling defeated. Oh my gosh, the country is still like a 50-50 country. And the strange reaction to that, I felt like personally like I lost. Like the fight that I was in didn't win. The warrior in me was defeated. And I tried to overcome that, but I couldn't. The experience kept on coming back. I'm defeated. I'm defeated. And one day, and it kept me up at night. I was quite a rough. I didn't want to be defeated. I wanted to win. I wanted just social justice to reign and things like that, and health care to be given, and a new tomorrow, as it were. And one day I thought, if I'm feeling this defeated, what happens if I go all the way? What happens if I'm really defeated? If it's true? No, it's not true. It's not true. I know, David. But what happens if it is? And I would lay down and I wouldn't literally die. But, I lay down and die. I'd get depressed. And I thought, great, lay down, give in. You lost. The battle that you took on as a youngster and for 40 years about social justice, you lost. And it was painful, and I wept, and I sank deeper and deeper. And then somewhere towards a bottom layer, I was like, oh, I felt relieved. Not by the social justice problems and the biases and bigotries and hatreds, but I felt let off the hook around that change. And something opened in me that said, this is not exact true. It's a feeling attitude. It doesn't exactly matter what I do. Something else matters. What is it then? If I can't make that change, if I can't end racism, whatever, as a person, whatever, is it part of then what? And I started noticing other things like friendships, like with a person like you, like that all of a sudden came more bright into my light. Will that change the world? I don't know. Maybe it won't. Maybe the course of the world is that certain things won't work. The earth won't get repaired. Maybe not. Maybe they will. I'm not trying to take people's hope away. But for me, going into the hopelessness all the way freed me. It made me lighter. And I'll still try to say things about racism and right things. And I'm not saying give up in that way. But there's some kind of detachment that was really good for me. And it made me lighter in my relationships. It made me more tender in my relationships, less fighting. It felt good on me.
This has been an ancient warrior practice, the facing of our ultimate demise, not just in a personal way, but seeing our families pass away, seeing our society fall away, seeing our nature fall away. It seems, why would one want to go in such a depressive type of inner visualization and journey? But I think there's a sobriety that happens for myself. And it's been an ancient practice to face death full on, with one's embodied, presence, not some disembodied, viewpoint of life and death, but
Yes.
actually feeling like the rawness of the very things that we love, all crumbling. It's an ancient Buddhist practice, and I believe it's valuable because at the other end of that tunnel, I've discovered is something. There's a richness, there's a freedom, as you talk about, and it's like, fuck, if there's nothing else to do, what else now? Now we can have a starting point in sobriety of the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I love that. Carl Jung had in his red book, he had dialogues with different divine spirits and whatever. He had inner works, inner dialogues, outer dialogues, however people would frame those. He framed them as spirits, I believe. And he had a conversation with one of these spirits asking about World War One. Why did it happen? What's the point? You know, other than people hate each other and want to hurt each other. Yes, that analysis is important, right? And the hatreds and those things are important. And the answer he came to, he said, and this may be relevant to you and your community, he said, there's a certain kind of warriorship, a certain that's going to win and dominate. And he said, and what needed to happen is for that aspect of that kind of warriorship to rise up in the war and to be killed because it was no longer sustainable. So that's a crazy thought. He's like, one of the points of war is to kill off certain viewpoints. Literal killing, we'd rather that not happen for sure. But this was his dreaming, you could say, of that, the symbology. And then he was asked, I can't remember, what happens when that's gone? And he said, then incapacity, inability, and the child, and a connection with a new beginning that's not based on will win, but based on what he called the child's more natural connection to something divine. He thought we were missing that the European culture, especially in the Western world, was missing that in its form of warriorship. Come on, let's take them on. We'll dominate. We'll wipe them out. Right? That kind of warriorship. He thought maybe some of that needs to die off, and that's the intelligence. I'm calling it intelligence. There's nothing good about war. I get that, but the intelligence in that happening, just like the intelligence in my defeat. Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that radical? I thought that was like, wow, that's deep.
It is. It's like it's arising to the surface in a way for it to be purified through its exercise, through its fulfillment, and through its own. It's like, you see in Gandhi, the story of Gandhi. If anyone hasn't seen the movie of Gandhi, really recommend it. There's a scene in there where they're willing to take on abuse and getting battered. These men who are lining up in front of a salt distillery, a salt mine, and one row after row getting smashed and saying, okay, bring it on. I'm ready to receive this, but I will not. I'm going to take it all in. And that eventually broke down. The battle was done. After so many strikes, the guards and everything, they can't do it anymore. There's no resistance. But those early ones who took that battering, who put themselves on the line, I mean, there's a lot to be said about that form of warriorship, so that the bigger picture, the bigger mission is attained. Although one might look like one is cowering, one might actually be the most brave by holding stand, right?
Yeah. What happens if I'm going to stand for myself, which many people need support for sure, and as a therapist, that's a big part of what I do, is help people rise up, defend, stand for what their nature is. I'm not going to be hurt. I have a boundary. I matter. My intelligence should be seen. I shouldn't be objectified and cared about. It's all those kind of things. So that's really important. But then there's this other element that I see more often, the stuff of surrender also. I can stand up to you, and I can be hurt and bleed, and you could take me down. Not as a false humility, I'm no good, but as a genuine recognition. I'm going back to your word humanity, as a sense of what humanity is about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can be hurt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in warriorship, there's always the yin and the yang, and if you're excessive in the yang, it depletes itself, and you end up in yin anyways.
Right.
If you're excessive in the yin, it falls flat, and yang has to rise up. So it's about having the duality integrated within ourselves. Absolute surrender as an absolute. If you will, it's almost like the steel spine and the open heart.
Nice. Nice. The steel and the heart. Mhm. Yeah.
And that can flip around at any time, any
Strong-willed.
place,
Yeah.
anywhere too.
And it does, doesn't it? It's like you're, I found the answer, and the next day, or week, or year,
At
here
least
we go.
at least I used to think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's in your heart to share um, with us today?
Um, if I can, which I can, but be modest. If I can, I would love to say something about my new book. It's my third book. It's going to be available December 1. People can pre-order it, and it's called "You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover." Can I say a few words about it?
I would love to hear about it.
Okay.
So I've just
Uh,
received it, by the way. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to dive into it.
I have a copy, and and I like to have it near me because it's took 15 years to make it, and it took a lot of people being involved. And the subtitle is called 17 Women's Stories of Hunger, Body Shame, and Redemption. And it came about because I was teaching a course in critical thinking about 17, 18 years ago now. And at the end of the class, I would ask people to write a paper using the critical thinking technologies, tools that I gave them. And I said, you can write about anything, but you have to think about it this way. Write about something that bugs you. It could be a war in Iraq. It could be, what's happening to your garden. It could be, your relationship with your child. But you have to think about it in a new way. And a number of women wrote about weight loss and diet and wishing they could make a change in their bodies, shape and size and eating habits. And I thought, okay, they get to do that. And so I taught this course a number of times a year for 8 years. And after the second or third year, I noticed there's a lot of papers like this. This is an interesting thing I don't know anything about. So I said to a couple of the women, can I interview you and just ask you some questions and learn something about it? Because I'm a therapist and I'd love to study this a little bit. Maybe I learned something. So I did a few interviews and I thought, this is fascinating. So I put up a piece of paper in the school, said, anybody want to participate in a research project where I will be interviewing you about your relationship with your body, your comfort with its size and shape, whether you want to change it or not, and how that works and how that doesn't work. I said, sign up here. So 21 people signed up. Guess how many men?
I don't know.
None.
Really?
0.
Wow.
Now, later on, I thought I would have had to have framed it differently. So I wasn't so conscious about, I didn't say this is for women, but I wasn't so conscious about what it would take because many men also I look at myself, oh, it'd be nice if I had my arms, but I like working out, I like my pectoral muscles, whatever. And I wish I ate a little less. I wish I could lose a few pounds. I'm getting a little heavier when I'm 65. Men, I'm sick about myself. Men do those things also. But the way I framed it didn't make an obvious invitation. I didn't know that at the time. It was an innocent error, you could call it. But in any case, I had 21 women said, can I do that? So I proceeded to do these, I call them therapeutic interviews over time with all 21. And then later on, wanted to add some more diversity. So I made sure I had women of color added to the mix. And I don't know how many, I ended up doing quite a few of these, like 5, 6, 15 hours per person. And then studying the transcripts and saying, what am I learning? What am I learning? And I learned quite a bit. And the book came, I took 17 of the stories and I think these really touch what I've learned. And they're in there. The central point of the book is that, well, there's a few. One is that the body is intelligent and it doesn't just get bigger and it doesn't just get hungry for something out of a mistake.
Oh.
Even if it's for a potato chip or ice cream and it's too much and I'm gaining 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds more than what some people would think. My view is that, can I access the intelligence built into that person and help them connect with it? Would that make it easier? So they're not, we're back to the shame thing. So I'm not disowning what I'm doing, but I'm owning it. For example, this is an obvious example for some women. One of the women had a early abuse history, and I was interviewing her and about some of those elements, and she started retreating. She said, my hands are getting numb at one point. And I tried to bring her, I said, feel your hands, touch your hands. I tried to help her come back, so to speak, if you could say. She's losing touch with herself. And the more I did that, the more she said, I'm getting more numb, I'm getting more numb. So my idea of helping her wasn't helping. And I said, okay, if you could get numb and really keep going in that direction. She said, I would kind of disappear. Where would you go? She said, I go into my bed. And I said, and what would you do? She said, I pull the covers on. I said, what's it like? So now I'm believing in her. Can you follow? I'm not trying to get her to stand up to or deal with it. I'm believing that she's intelligent and I don't quite get it yet. And I didn't quite get it, but I believe in her.
Yes.
So she says, I'm in bed. I said, what's it like? She said, I'm naked. I said, do you want to be naked? She said, no. I said, what would you put on? I put on sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Now, how do you feel? It's not enough. How many would you put on? I put on 3 sweatpants and 3 sweatshirts, she says. Now, this gives me the chills. It's such a powerful story. She's saying, relative to my story, I want to have layers around me. Layers of protection, which she developed physically, bodily. Now, some people might say, well, wouldn't it be better if she didn't do that by weight gain, et cetera? All that's good. But first is to believe in the person. First is to access the intelligence. Because Satyen, if a coach says to her, if I say to her, well, what are you eating? I eat ice cream. Let's cut out the ice cream. If I do that, I'm giving her an unconscious message. The message is that need for protection you have, it's not really relevant here.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that. I'm not a bad guy. Yeah, go ahead.
Reinforcing more. Reinforcing it even more.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? But yet it's so common to say, and out of good heartedness, look, it's not healthy. Maybe your knees are hurting. Maybe it's not good. Maybe it's your blood sugar. Maybe there's real health issues. Let's assume for some people there's real health issues. Some people not, even though they're bigger. That's not always true. So that's a myth. But let's say all those things. But still, her body is saying, I need protection. I need layers of protection. And if I don't help her figure out what she's going to do about those layers of protection that she needs as part of whatever strategy she has, I'm not seeing her. Now, not all stories are abuse stories, but it's a potent example of what I mean, that there's an intelligence that somebody can show me if they're brought into a space where someone says, I'm going to believe in you even more than you can believe in yourself, perhaps.
Beautiful, brother. Yeah. Beautiful. I think we all could use that. All of us, the whole world, every single one of us could use that acceptance and belief that what we consider our crutches actually has a deeper intelligence, meaning, purpose, value. It has an ultimate value to serve us.
Yeah. One woman said to me, I just tell you one more story, but I'm shy about it. I'm having an inner conflict. Some party says, don't tell another story. You can focus on other things. And someone's saying, but this is really important. So you just saw my unconscious resolution of that. That's why I fumbled for a moment. Okay, I'll win that argument. It's like, there's one more story I'm going to tell. Okay, all right, we work it out. But it's the first story in the book. And a woman said she wanted to lose weight. Her mother was heavy and had weight issues and diabetes, and her grandmother did also. And she said she wants to lose weight. And she said, every time I said, well, do you try to diet? She says, yes. And I said, what happens? She says, every time I begin a diet program and an exercise program, before I begin the next day when I'm going to start, I go out and I buy chocolate. And she laughs. I said, what are you laughing about? She says, I don't even like chocolate. Right? So, and I thought, now that's the kind of crazy wisdom that fascinates me. Some people think that's crazy. I think fascinating. I have no idea what she's doing. I really want to know what the heck she's up to, right? So I say to her, what's your diet program? Well, I should exercise, I should drink more water and eat more salads, and I shouldn't eat some of these things. Great. I'm going to represent your diet program. You should eat more salad, and I want you to fight for and defend eating chocolate. Why? Because a part of her does that.
Ah, yes.
Right? So let's bring it to the table. Otherwise we just act like it's irrelevant, but it wins every time. Can you follow? It has enough power to override all of her intentions. So I better get to know the damn thing, right? Otherwise, I say, you should drink more water. And she says, no. And I'm like, well, you should have more salad. She says, no. And she laughs. And I said, you certainly shouldn't eat chocolate. She says, I'll eat whatever I damn well want. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, can you eat a little bit less? She says, no. And she laughs. I said, you keep on saying no to everything I do. And her eyes light up. She says, I never get to say no.
Ah,
Whoa, she's doing no yoga.
yes.
She's practicing saying no. Now, if I want to help her, let's say I decided she should lose weight, or she wants to, and I'm going to help her with that. I don't have that as my explicit agenda. I have more of the psychological depth as my agenda. But then I better help her say no. Where can't you say no in your life? Well, I'm a single mom, I'm raising 2 kids, and I never want to say no to them because then nobody's really there for them. And then I'm the only person making money, so I don't want to say no to my boss. So now I'm learning all this stuff about her life. The importance of no, where she needs it, how difficult it is for her. Now I'm understanding, developing a compassionate witnessing space for the importance of no, and how marvelously crazy that she developing a way of saying, I'm going to do something, and then saying no to her own diet program over and over and over as a no practice. Her psyche says, her soul says, no is more important to me than everything still. That to me makes me happy. It wouldn't make everybody, but I think fascinating. That's amazing.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So when
Mm-hmm.
these folks get to the core of this realization, what goes on then?
Well, I would say 3 things. One is, some people say, that helps me a lot. I think I'm going to take that intelligence and see if I can integrate it in a way that serves my agenda. I'll practice saying no more. There are certain things I really should say to my kids, because I'm trying to be overly nice. So I'm going to practice that a little bit and see if that no can be happening in other areas. If that loosens the grip of the no around these other things, it will free me to do some other things.
Okay.
Some people do that. And that's a percentage of people do that. Some people say, for now, putting a discipline on myself that says you should be a certain way, I have to say no to all of that for a while, because the discipline is not a discipleship, it's a disciplinarianship or something, right? It's self-punishment. And some people have so much punishment they grew up with that their discipline looks more like punishment. I didn't do this, I should have done this, I did this wrong, I screwed up. And for those people, there's a coming out of saying, no more. No, I'm not going to be put down. No, I'm not interested in your program. Don't tell me who I am. Don't tell me how to be. And certainly don't tell me as a woman I should be smaller and meet the patriarchal gaze in a woman-friendly, accommodating way. So that's a big force. That's a power force in there that says, enjoy me first. Can you follow? Then we'll see what happens next.
Yes.
Yeah. And some people just say, I like myself. I realize I like myself. I realize the only thing that was pushing me to try to change myself was self-hatred. It wasn't really a positive thing at all. I think I'm going to spend my time developing, as you said, more tenderness and care for myself and less self-hatred. And maybe some people won't like the way I look. Screw them. That's not a bad direction, right? All those directions then become freer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mm,
I I love experiencing and hearing about these moments of this self-revelation. Those are such rich and potent moments. And so, would
yeah.
share with us the name of the book again, please, and how can everyone get a hold of this and find out where you are and all of that?
Thanks for asking. Uh, so it's called "You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover." Like, the phrase, "You can't judge a book by its cover." Like, you can't judge a body by its cover. And I think of it as the inside stories. It's not like the outer. You should do this, and why. And this is the program, and this is why you should count your calories. People should do that if they want to, but that's not the point of this book. Is more what's going on. What's the deeper truth? Um, People can pre-order it all kinds of places, on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles, on uh, uh, indie books. Almost any place that sells books should have it. December 1 is the actual pub date, but people can pre-order now, uh, if they want, or they can come to my website, which is under David Bedrick. People used to call me Bedrock, but it's Bedrick, Bedrick, davidbedrick.com, and there they can look at videos about the book, or look at reviews, or I have a series of Psychology Today articles that come from the intelligence that I gained from the women I studied. um, yeah.
And you also have very rich sharings on your own Facebook page. So I'm going to encourage everyone to click on over and
Yeah.
follow David here, because very rich and potent and tender and really relevant shares that you've been
Mm.
giving, especially with all that's going on, right now.
Yeah,
Incredible, brother.
thanks. Yeah, if people come to my page on Facebook, then and follow it, then they'll see, if they want to learn about the books, there's videos and things like that, interviews I've done, or interviews like this with you, and other people, or podcasts, or all kinds of different things, or articles that I share there also. But yeah, I love I wrote today a post uh, on Facebook that was a reflection on growing up in New York City, in a building that had 75 families in it, and a building right across from it, just a few feet, that had 75 families in it, in a world where there's more buildings with hundreds of families in it. And the being dropped into this world of diversity, and being, on subways and in staircases and body to body with so many different people, and in such a diversity of people. And I was reflecting on how much Facebook sometimes feels like that for me, in the best of sense. That I have friends I can have a race dialogue, and I can have a white and black person from South Africa into that conversation. Well, how would that's amazing for me, among other things. Or
Yeah.
the diversity of the world will enter. I'll talk about anti-Semitism as a Jew, and then someone from Israel, and someone from Poland, and someone from Germany. Well, and it's like, wow, that's a pretty incredible healing potential, to have all that richness enter. So Facebook has its problems, obviously, but that's a pretty glorious aspect. I wouldn't be sitting here with you,
Yes.
for sure.
But brother,
Yeah.
this leads me. I want to circle back to your teaching in the realm of critical thinking.
Yeah.
I believe this is so valuable right now. Can you give us some potent keys? We see so much fake media, or what's this, what's
Yeah.
like, it's mayhem in terms of truth discernment, is what I've seen. It seems like people have no idea how to tell truth from false. There are a few, but yeah, I'd love your sense of this. How we can cultivate critical thinking in these times.
It's so, I don't have an answer, but what's coming to me in a moment is, if you're passionate about your position, I'm passionate about my position. I stand for social justice. I have a fist and a passion and an intensity about that. That's very important to me. And if someone offends that strongly, I'm in a conflict. That's okay. Conflict is okay. And some conflicts are okay, right? Conflicting, hopefully we'll learn something and not just damage each other, would be better. Hopefully we'll get either learn something or get closer to each other. That I would like to come out of a conflict. If it doesn't, it's not so yummy. But if you're passionate about a position, it's very important to do two things. One, make sure you're able to bring that passionate position out as directly, without sarcasm, as directly and as strongly, with as much conviction and intelligence as you can. Because if you don't do that, you won't be able to then consider where the other person was coming from. And if people holding back, if I have to put myself away to listen to you, it won't sustain. I have to say, Satyen, I would love to hear you. I may not say it like quite like this. I would love to hear you, but I notice I'm so much wanting to fight against what you just said. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to say what I had to say as strong as I possibly can. But if you give me a moment, I promise after that, I might actually feel like I said something. And if you listen to it a little bit, it would really help. But then I'm going to see if I can dream, imagine, empathize my way into what your world would be like. Not as in I should agree with you. I don't mean that. Oh yeah, you're right. You should treat people shitty. I don't mean that kind of an empathy. But is that person a little bit like me in some way? Is Donald Trump like me in a little bit in some way? Not in the I want to tear people down kind of way.
Well, I think that's your next book. You can't
Yeah.
judge an attitude by its cover,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They're spirits that are up. They're time spirits that have big energies in them. Yeah. A lot of people dream about, a lot of progressive friends, I know because I work with people's dreams, dream about Donald Trump when they haven't felt that they can speak up strongly against the things that are against them. Now, so can you imagine why I'm putting quotes on it? Doesn't mean be like Donald Trump the way he's doing it. But can you see why somebody would project onto him, I will stand against anything. I don't care what you say to me. Right? And some people, their psyches sense that in him. And some of us on the progressive line need a little bit of that. Interesting. Just that's a radical thing. Some people never want to think that way. I'm not like that at all. I understand. Me neither. But
Where's
the shadow task, right?
Yeah, exactly. What else in critical thinking? When we're looking, on the internet, we're looking on Facebook, we're reading news. How else can we
I don't know. What do you think?
What is more false? There's so much division and thousands, hundreds of viewpoints on vaccines and virus, and some are extremely oppositional.
I don't know. Nothing's coming to my mind. What do you think, Satyen? And what helps you? I like your word discernment. What helps you? What brings that discernment forward? How do you practice or exercise that quality? I'm not just trying to turn it back on you. I'm just genuinely something didn't flow up, and I thought maybe you knew something. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're yeah.
So first of all, it's like what you shared. I aim to understand. I don't have to aim to agree. Mm-hmm. So I aim to feel into what is someone feeling, to have whatever viewpoint. What's their inner disposition? What are they feeling? What is their history? What is their demeanor? Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell all of that in some posts or some whatever, but you can start to get a taste and a flavor as you poke around and look and feel.
Yeah, you can.
And so I aim to try to feel into what is their genuine, and then ultimately when I'm in the best of moods, I aim to find what could their most positive intent be. So if there's someone who is very extreme on the right side, right, and they're what we would call racist and such like this, well, would their positive intent with me? Well, we can one level say there is no positive intent, but then as I felt into them, the positive intent could be they might feel threatened that their race or their people are going to get clobbered, and fuck, we got to stand up now. If we don't, and we got to take care of you, or you're going to take care of us.
Yeah.
So what if that is their positive intent so what I then try to do is I try to meet them there and try to speak to what their positive intent would be rather than the form, the external expression. Mm-hmm. That's what I aim to do. I try to feel for that and meet it. It's not always easy. Sometimes I'm like, that's way too far. Sometimes I'm triggered. I like,
sure,
but it's my practice.
Yeah. I love that. A kind of, I call that a kind of eldership, not, which is not about age, kind of an eldership. I was once in a conflict resolution circle. A circle, it was like 500 people and from around the world. And there was a conflict between some people from Palestine and some people from Israel. And they were, it wasn't like with bullets and stuff. We were talking and yelling and conflicting with each other. And there was one woman, as the conflict was getting pretty heated, not physical to blows, but strong words and a lot of grit. And some woman from Israel, she stepped into the conflict and she said, "I understand where you're coming from." And then she started talking to these Palestinians and started talking to both sides. And somebody asked her, "How are you able to do that? You know, how are you able to do that?" And she said, "I spent decades burning my wood. And I was stood for myself and I fought for myself and I stood up and I spoke against people and I fought for my position." And she said, I did that for decades and there's not much of that left in me. And I thought, what a beautiful way to say it. She wasn't saying, get over all that. She said, burn your wood. If you're not done, go burn.
Yes.
And, but maybe after a while, there'll be a little less wood. And
Beautiful.
isn't that incredible? That's a cool, you reminded me of that.
I think this is like the essence of right now for all of us is burn the wood. All of us, like me, you, all of us. What's the tank now to offer? What's the life that wants to be lived?
Yeah.
What else, brother? What else do you want to share to complete with us today that's in your heart? Knowing that these folks, we're all going out now, back into the lives of whatever we have to lead.
I woke up yesterday morning with a very different kind of nighttime dream. And it was a dream that had no visual images. It was just singing. And so I was just hearing, in my dreaming, sleeping state. And I was singing, please tell us about, I'm trying to remember the first one. Please tell us about something. What was the first word? Tell us about something, mystery and love. Please tell us about that. It was singing. It was like, please tell us about something, mystery and love. I don't know, it was like singing this lighthearted but beautiful song. As I'm saying that, Satyen, I think it's kind of gorgeous that I couldn't remember the first one because I guess it's the mystery is going to have to stay. I'm not doing that intentionally. It's really my psyche said, you got to leave one of those words out for it to be a real mystery. Okay, I guess we'll block it out of your mind. Clever little suckers, But something about that song, the mystery, tell us about the mystery and the love. The mystery, why the hell are we in these places? I don't freaking know. I do have ideas and I'm brilliant at times and I really have no idea, right? And the mystery and the love that it takes to hold those mysteries. What's really happening? Is the whole thing going to fall apart? Is that what's happening? We're going to have a civil war and kill each other? I don't know. Maybe. How do we bring our hearts, our love to that mystery? Phew. That's a kind of an eldership, a leadership. I would love to see more of, not the answer, but what you're saying, the eldership, the mystery, and then an attitude, a loving attitude, a feeling attitude towards it. And then, just like I try to do with the women in the stories, maybe we can't know an answer, or at least there are good answers, for certainly, at moments. Take them as far as you can. And then humanity, right? Mystery, and as much love as you can bring to that unknown. Yeah, that's what comes up for me as you asked the question. I started hearing the nighttime dream song.
We are the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother, for sharing so richly, sweetly, potently your life experience with us today.
Mm,
I'm very enriched, and
mm,
and
mm,
all my love and
mm.
yeah, goodness to you.
Yeah. You're a good man and a good human, a good being, Satyen, and it's a special privilege to be in your presence, and the way you ask questions and the depth of your questions and the heartfulness of your questions and the genuineness there really makes a very special space for me. I'm not always like this. That's partly whatever this is, but my freedom to be passionate can change and at ease and enjoy the things I want to say. Also a testament to the spirit of the space you created here.
Bless you, brother.
Yeah.
All my love. Have a
Yeah.
great evening. Thank you, Warrior Sages. Bless.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.